In the fantastic movie Galaxy Quest, the cast of a Star Trek type show finds out that not only are aliens real, but the aliens think the actors are actually space adventurers and they've come to enlist their help. Tim Allen plays the sort of Captain Kirk, Captain Picard type character, and Alan Rickman plays this actor who takes himself extremely seriously and resents, well, kind of everyone and everything, but especially Tim Allen's character, for not living up to his artistic standard. So Tim Allen's being chased by this giant rock monster, everybody's throwing out suggestions for how to escape, and Alan Rickman's character suggests that he think about its motivation and what does it want. Tim Allen screams back, "It's a rock! It doesn't have motivation!" At which point Alan Rickman sort of throws up his hands and says, "Well, this is your problem. You were never serious about the craft." A lot of us have heard actors, film people, theater people throw around this word motivation, but we may not actually be sure what they're really getting at. Well, what they're getting at is this: feelings always come from somewhere. And that's the principle behind cognitive behavioral therapy, in fact. Somebody will come in with an emotional issue and the therapist will ask, well, what's the thought behind that? And they'll sort of trace that back to what those thoughts are rooted in and whether they're actually true, because they're recognizing that something is driving these feelings. Well, that's what actors do too. A lot of times people think of actors as portraying emotion, but really if an actor thinks about emotion and only emotion, it usually comes out pretty flat and not very believable. Why? Because emotion is actually the byproduct. What really drives a character is what they want. That's why acting from intention or motivation is so powerful. Now, it's only fair to note at the outset that the things we're learning today are not the only way to act. Some actors find this technique really useful, some find it less so. You may even find that the techniques that you find useful differ from show to show because different acting styles may fit with different show styles. These are really, really useful skills to have in your toolbox so that you can decide when to use them. And if you put in the work, you'll usually find that these techniques serve you very well. So how do we do this? Well, a character often has an overarching goal for the whole show. He may want to marry his true love, for instance. But a show is a long time, even a single scene is a long time, to play a single intention. That's also going to come out pretty flat. An actor needs to find a way to give a scene texture and definition and not have it all on one plane. That's where scene scoring comes in. Scene scoring is the process by which an actor or director breaks down a scene into what we call beats. They're chunks of a scene that form units of the same emotional subject matter. Again, look at real life. You might have one overarching life goal. It may be to glorify God or to love people well. It may be to be happy. It may just be to make a lot of money so you never have to worry. That would be a character's overarching goal for the whole play. But in a single scene, you might have a goal that's specific to that scene. You may, for instance, get into an argument with somebody about their drinking, in service of your larger goal, whether that's glorifying God or loving that person well or just making your own life easier. So winning that argument, getting them to come around to your point of view, would be your goal for that scene, without changing your overarching goal. Now here's where you get to add texture to a scene, because even in real life, your intentions change moment to moment. It may be that when you start out the argument, you're trying to make sure that you don't make your loved one angry so that they'll listen. There's one emotional chunk of the argument. Then you might start trying to make them see the effects that their drinking has on the people around them. There's another emotional chunk. Then as the argument gets more heated, you might start trying to guilt trip them, or trying to hurt them just as much as they've hurt you. There's another emotional chunk. And you'll usually find if you look at a scene, it breaks down into those beats fairly naturally. So we break down a scene into these beats, these chunks of emotional subject matter, and then for each beat we identify two things. We identify your character's intention, and we identify their obstacle. Drama hinges on the fact that most of the time characters aren't getting what they want. Romeo and Juliet. The main characters want to be a couple, with the one glaring problem that their families are at war. Without that obstacle, there wouldn't actually be a story. They would just get married at the beginning of the show and we could all go home, which frankly is how some of us want Shakespeare to work. The obstacle is what keeps a character from getting what they want. You want to make sure that your loved one doesn't get mad about you bringing up their drinking. Obstacle, they're very touchy about it. Next beat, you want to show them how it's hurting you. Obstacle, they're defensive and they don't want to listen. You want to hurt them as much as they hurt you. Obstacle, they're not taking it lying down. The fact that you're not getting what you want is what keeps that dramatic tension going. And by the way, it's also what produces those extremely strong, compelling emotions on stage. So let's look at this with a scene from All Heaven Broke Loose. This is a pretty short scene and it's fairly simple. Mary Magdalene is there to tell Joanna that Jesus got arrested and it doesn't look good. Amelia and Jackie have graciously come to join us today, and we're going to read through the scene fairly flat first, just to get you familiar with the text.
Johanna, wake up. I don't know where they're taking him, but the trial didn't go.
Wait, what?
Yeshua got arrested last night.
What?
They tried him at the high priest's house, but I couldn't get inside to see. I saw Kepha come out as they were leading him away, but he couldn't even talk. Johanna, he was crying.
Where is he now?
I don't know. I don't even know where...
We'll find him. There's no way they can keep this quiet for long.
Johanna.
It'll be all right, Miriam. He's calm seas. He can handle this.
But he's kept saying recently that...
It'll be all right. It'll be all right. Come on.
What about...
No, don't wake his mother. There's no good to be done by worrying her.
Great. So here's how we break this down. And we're breaking it into slightly smaller beats than we might for a longer scene, just to demonstrate. Usually you want a beat to be at least several lines long. So in this show, Mary Magdalene, or Magdalete as she's called in the show, is somebody with a lot of anxiety who's drawn to people like Johanna because they lend a stability to the world. So she goes to Johanna hoping that she's somehow going to fix it. So there's our first intention for Magdalete, to get help. Immediately, obstacle, Magdalete runs up against the fact that Johanna doesn't know what she's talking about or why she's so upset. So her goal suddenly becomes to get Johanna apprised of the seriousness of the situation as fast as possible. For Johanna, her intention to understand what on earth is going on is hampered by the fact that Magdalete has just woken her up and started in the middle and not at the beginning of the story. You'll see that Magdalete here is in fact her own obstacle. It's okay for characters to have the same obstacle. Characters don't always have to be in conflict with each other. Sometimes they're trying to work together and it's the situation that's actually causing the tension. Fortunately for Magdalete, Johanna is sharp and not only catches on quickly, but takes charge. The thing that makes it tricky is that Magdalete is close to panic and it'll be hard to keep control of the situation if Magdalete loses it. For Magdalete, now that she's achieved her goal of finding someone to fix it, she now feels safe enough to expose her deepest fears to see if those can be fixed too. She starts bringing up the worst possible scenarios, with the one glaring problem that Johanna is way too practical to want to talk about any of those things while there's something that can be done. And then at the very end of this scene, we have this interesting moment where Magdalete realizes they may have a moral duty to let Yeshua's mother know what's going on. And Johanna puts her foot down and says, absolutely not. In this case, the goal for both of them is to do the right thing, and the obstacle for both of them is that they have different instincts on what that right thing may be. Here's how that scene plays now that we have those intentions and obstacles in place.
Johanna, wake up! I don't know where they're taking him, but the trial didn't go...
Wait, what?
Yeshua got arrested last night.
What?
They tried him at the high priest's house, but I couldn't get inside to see. I saw Kepha come out as they were leading him away, but he couldn't even talk. Johanna, he was crying.
Where is he now?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know where...
We'll find him. There's no way they can keep this quiet for long.
Johanna!
You'll be all right, Miriam. He's calm seas. He can handle this.
He's kept saying recently that...
He'll be all right. He'll be all right. Come on.
What about...
No. Don't wake his mother. There's no good to be done by worrying her.
Now, it's important to note that these are not the only places we could have put the beat breaks and not the only intentions that we could have chosen. In life, we're used to this idea of getting the right answer, but unlike, say, math, theater is a place where there are often many possible right answers. I won't say that there are no wrong answers. Sometimes an intention just obviously doesn't work. But the point with scene scoring is not to find one right answer that the playwright demands that you use. It's to find what will help you make the scene compelling and give you logical transitions from one emotional subject to another. There's a similarity to Christianity here. There are some things in Christianity that God was very clear about, such as Jesus is the only way to salvation, or don't murder people. And people often expect that God is going to give similarly black and white instructions about everything. But we get this very interesting statement in 2 Corinthians 3:17. It says, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." Sometimes when we're asking God about a decision in life, like should I go to this college or that college, or should I pursue this career or that career, we're yearning for this one black and white answer. And sometimes what he says is, "You're my child, and I gave you personhood. What do you want to do?" Sometimes there's an answer that obviously doesn't fit, like if you're really gifted at academics and are seriously considering serving God by becoming a professor or maybe a writer or maybe a researcher, chances are the answer isn't go become a welder. But it may be that the choice between professor or writer or researcher is one that you'll make with prayer and counsel, but is ultimately a decision between multiple good things, not between a right thing and a wrong thing. So look at what we could have done here. We could have said Magdalene's first intention is to pull herself together long enough to get the story out, and that it goes into the middle of her long line. And we could have said that her intention then changes to wanting Johanna to make all of the scary things untrue. And this is a very important thing to note. An intention doesn't have to be possible in order for it to be what somebody really wants. Later in this show, there are a lot of people whose deepest intention is for Yeshua to not be dead. Spoilers, he does get resurrected, but at the time most of them are wishing it, he's dead. And generally that's pretty irrevocable. So we could have Magdalene wanting this impossible thing, and we could say that Johanna's intention in that beat is to just shut this crazy girl up. This is also important to note. Not always, but often, the less noble intention is going to be the truer, more compelling, more relatable intention. Johanna's intention in this beat could be to comfort her, or it could be to shut her up. Either one is a valid choice, but often that more selfish, less noble option is going to be the more honest choice. And that can really be a gift to your audience, because it lets them know they're not alone. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, "No temptation has seized you except that which is common to all humans." Other people struggle the same way you do, and if it's okay for you to be honest about it on stage, then it's okay for them to be honest and to find help with their struggles too. So don't be afraid to choose that less noble option for your character's intention. So, quick recap. You're breaking a scene into chunks that hang together emotionally, called beats. You're looking for your intention, what you want, and your obstacle, what keeps you from getting that. And as you do that, there's no one right answer. What your character wants doesn't have to be possible to be what they sincerely want. And often, the less noble choice is the more honest choice. So now, if you're not completely overwhelmed, get out your pencil and start scoring your scene.
Johanna, wake up. I don't know where they're taking him, but the trial didn't go.
Wait, what?
Yeshua got arrested last night.
What?
They tried him at the high priest's house, but I couldn't get inside to see. I saw Kepha come out as they were leading him away, but he couldn't even talk. Johanna, he was crying.
Where is he now?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know where.
We'll find him. There's no way they can keep this quiet for long.
Johanna!
It'll be all right, Miriam. He's calm seas. He can handle this.
But he's kept saying recently that...
It'll be all right. It'll be all right. Come on.